Good morning, noon and night, everybody. Today I'm here with Adam P, Newcastle fan, to preview our game on the weekend. Hi Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, mate. It's good to see you, and it's good to be speaking about what is going to be quite a good game on Sunday. I've been very impressed with Nottingham Forest, which of course I'm going to talk about. But I'm going to say straight away, I'm looking forward to Sunday. Had a chance of being down this city ground a few times. I always tend to stay over Nottingham as well, so I always have a good time out in this city. So again, this weekend I think will be no exception to that.
It looks like you always have a really great time. Were you at the City Ground for the Cup game this August?
Yes, I was.
How did you find that?
It was a good standard game, to be fair. Obviously, I felt like you guys almost cost yourselves in that shootout, but it's always one of those where it's a penalty shootout. Whoever turns up, it's just a game of chance. So Newcastle were fortunate enough to get through that. We're still in the cup as well, actually, so I'm hoping things go well against Brentford. But for you guys, the league's been a much bigger deal for you, and I've been so impressed with you this season.
But no, we've won 3 games on the bounce, which is not very Foresty, to say the least. I think that any Forest fan will tell you that. You've won your last 2, well, if you count Chelsea in the cup. Chelsea and Arsenal are 2 really, really good sides to beat. What do you think that you can take from those games into this one on Sunday?
Well, on paper, it was quite a hard week for Newcastle because going into those 3 games last week, Newcastle weren't playing well. We had a decent amount of points in the table, but the reality was we won some games and drew some games, but we played rubbish in basically all of them. So going into this week against Chelsea twice in the space of 3 days, where lost 2-1 at Stamford Bridge, but to be honest, it was a Cole Palmer masterclass. They went into the cup game. Finally, a big result at St James's Park. Newcastle played well. It was our A/B team against Chelsea's B team, but again, our B team still £500 million, so you can't rule a team like Chelsea are. And then Arsenal was by far our best performance all season at the weekend, which for you guys probably doesn't put it at a great time to be playing Newcastle. But Nottingham Forest again, my personal team of the season so far. I've been so impressed with you guys now. Of course, as a Newcastle fan, when I look at Forest's team, I first got to mention our ex-players. That being Chris Wood, Elliott Anderson, and even Matt Sells. Matt Sells was so bad for us, and he's been exceptional for you guys.
Wait, hold right on. Oh, that's something that I completely forgot. I forgot that Matt Sells has played for you. When was he there again?
Back in our championship season, which was 2016 now, so a long time ago. He was terrible for us, but I do remember him quite well.
Crikey, well, gone from being terrible in the Championship to, I believe, having the joint most clean sheets in the Premier League.
Nice, yeah, it must be up there.
I saw that. It's crazy. Well, you just mentioned Chris Wood there. That is a massive, massive talking point. The Premier League's in-form striker at the moment, and scored a hat-trick against you last season. Are you expecting that to be a big challenge for you to defend against, or?
Well, you would have to say so, yes, because he has scored a hat-trick against Newcastle at St James's Park, which is mad as it sounds. That was actually more goals at St James's Park than he scored in his entire Newcastle run for us, which just showed how much he just didn't work for Newcastle now. I think the thing with Wood is he's a striker that loves service, so he loves balls coming in the box, he loves everyone playing the ball to him constantly, whereas Newcastle was a team that basically played the ball around him, and Chris Wood's the sort of striker that's probably not the best at holding the ball up. He's someone that is a feeder striker, he loves being in the end of stuff. He just didn't work out in Newcastle. It just wasn't a transfer. It'll be fair, at a time when Newcastle were 19th in the Premier League table, it worked against a relegation rival in Burnley, but the reality was he just didn't click for Eddie Howe's Newcastle. So when you look at Chris Wood and look his goal scoring stats, where since Nuno's came in, only Haaland scored more than him, which when you put it that way is absolutely mental. He is a top quality striker. He's statistically proven it at Burnley and at Forest again already this season. He's a player that we do need to watch out for, and he's someone that I think Newcastle will have a hard time against. But the one for me that I wanted to kind of talk about and address the most is probably the Elliott Anderson situation, because for both of us, of course, we had the PSR issues in the summer where we basically almost shake each other's hands, where Vlak Redeemas has to come to Newcastle and Elliott Anderson has to come to you guys in order just to work around this financial nightmare. So yeah, I think you guys have definitely got the better out of the deal in terms of those 2 players. But Elliott Anderson is top quality. I think you guys know already just how good of a youngster he is. And it's a sort of fixture where, even though Elliott Anderson's a Newcastle fan through and through, it's a sort of fixture where especially players like him and players like Chris Wood are going to look at that and go, well, you know what, I want to get one over Newcastle, I want to show them why we should still be there, why we should have never been sought in the first place. So yeah, it's quite a big fixture. There's a lot going in behind it, and of course, based on form, it's two good teams up against each other. So it's just a case of whoever's on the day is going to be the better of the two sides. But I said it myself. I think a lot of Newcastle fans, surely all the Newcastle fans, are thinking this is not an easy game, because it 100% is not an easy game. And I think for you guys, well, you'll probably look at that fixture, would have thought and go, you know what, it is going to be a tough Newcastle side. So I think both teams are going to be looking perhaps a little bit of nerves going into it, but ultimately it's just going to be a match of whoever turns up in the day, I think.
I think that most Forest fans are looking, well, it's the way that I'm looking at it, is that back in August, a very, very strong Newcastle side came to the City Round on paper, as far as we were concerned, and we looked at what we thought was to be our second team, and we thought, well, I think I said in my pre-match prediction on my own vlog, I said we'll get ran through 3-0 here. I'm going to say 3-0 to Newcastle. I know that's not very positive of me. I'm more than happy to be proved wrong though. And then we took you to penalties, so I feel like there's a quiet confidence, but we know that Newcastle are a really, really, really good team that will very, very happily punish us. I mean, we saw in the first minute punished us for the slightest little mistake, so we're going to have to be really, really, really on it. We touched on Elliott Anderson a little bit before as a really, really big part of our midfield. He's my player of the season so far. I think that Elliott Anderson sets an exceptional example on the pitch, and just in relation to Newcastle's midfield, I've seen this one a little bit on Twitter, but I don't know too much about it, that your best midfield on paper is probably Bruno, Joelinton and Tonali, but apparently when put into games that's not been working.
I agree with that term there. Now the problem obviously with the Bruno, Joelinton and Tonali midfield three is that, yes, statistically they are best midfield players in terms of quality, but they just don't play that well together. Sean Longstaff's quite a big part of Newcastle's midfield because he's basically the defensive depth, so he's there to sweep the ball up, he's there to be that sort of, I wouldn't say clean player, but he's that sort of player there that would just do the hard work for us, whereas your likes of your Bruno's, your Tonali's, your Joelintons are going to be the ones that are going to drive forward and create opportunities for Newcastle. But when all three of them play together, it just doesn't gel that well. It just hasn't been that well in terms of midfield. We don't hold an awful amount of possession with them. Sean Longstaff, again, you'd be surprised, but he's a massive key part of Newcastle's midfield, and him, Bruno and Tonali, I would probably say is our best midfield three, and then you have Joelinton as an out wide option that will go out on the left. So that's probably the way Eddie Howe will play it, to be honest, against Forest. It's like up front, Joelinton to be a left winger, and then the three midfielders are being behind him. So he probably will play all four, but Joelinton won't be in the midfield three. That's how we lined up against Arsenal. It just worked well against them. So I would have thought it'll be the same 11. I would have thought against Arsenal. So the problem being there is that I think Newcastle can be a bit predictable at times, where yes, the last couple of games has worked for us, but every single match we kind of go on with the same system. So if Nuno scouts Newcastle look well, let's say Nottingham Forest know exactly what Newcastle's going to do, they probably can close us out of the game. So it just depends on how we play, but I would have thought Eddie Howe is probably going to stick with the exact same team we played against Arsenal. Well,
you just said about Newcastle being a little bit predictable there. I think that Nuno's been one who very much loves the game plan. You saw that from our victory against Liverpool. The fact that everything about that game was planned absolutely down to a T. You feel like an element of predictability in a side might be a bit punishable if you say, I don't want to sound sort of cocky there, but my point is that if what comes at us is exactly what we expect, then I feel like that could do quite well for us, because I think that Nuno knows how to set up in certain ways. One of those matchups, particularly on the pitch, that I'd be predicting to cause a lot of trouble would be the good old Dan Burn versus Anthony Elanga matchup that's going to be going on. I've seen that Dan Burn's been playing centre back. I think he did against Arsenal.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
So potentially there's going to be a little bit less of that out wide. Was it Lewis Hall who's coming in on the left? Who are you expecting from Forest to be really sort of well, other than Chris Wood, to be coming at you and causing these sorts of problems? And will Elanga versus Burn be one to watch?
Well, yeah, I think we've seen it last season on Newcastle's win down at the City ground. Of course, Nottingham Forest's first goal, come to Elanga going straight through and goal, just completely outpaces Dan Burn. And I think that's a problem that Eddie Howe, and I think Dan Burn himself probably realises as well. It's a guy that's in his 30s. I mean, he is massive. He's like 6'6". He hasn't got a lot of pace on him. He just doesn't work as a left back for me. He just hasn't got the pace to be able to keep up with most of the wingers in the league. So he has him as a centre half now alongside Fabian Shaw. And to be fair, Dan Burn's actually a good centre half. Like, he's been actually the better of the two centre halves this season, in my opinion. And now we have Lewis Hall as a left back, who I'll assume you probably don't know too much about him, but what I mean, his quality, he is exceptionally good. He's done well against Cole Palmer last week. He was amazing against Bukayo Saka. Like, he's a youngster that's a Newcastle fan through and through again. He's someone that has been at the club now just over a year, but he's one of our best players, like by a country mile. He's one of our best players. He's got so much potential, and already at the age of 19, he's already proven quite a lot. So even though you probably look at our fullback to see Livramento, you see Hall, you'd be thinking, well, you know, he's a young player, so you can probably get him behind him. You'll be surprised how good they are. They are top draw. So I think Elanga will have a good battle against Hall. I don't know who will come out on top, but I'm confident in my player, and I'll imagine you'll be confident in your player as well. So we'll see on the day who gets the better of the pairing, but no, it'll be a real quality game. I know it will be. So it just depends. It just depends if Newcastle start well, because I think, especially in our away matches this season, Newcastle don't tend to start the game well. You always tend to start off on the back foot. Newcastle aren't that confident against some of the games. Now, to be fair, in recent years, Nottingham Forest is one of the grounds, and Newcastle always seems to get a win at. I think we've won the last 3 there, so it's always a ground that we do seem to do well at. But again, I think this is most definitely a different Nottingham Forest team from the one we had a couple of years ago. So we'll see how things go. But going back in the cup game again, I thought Newcastle actually started the game quite well. I know you said it was Nottingham Forest's B team, but I still thought Newcastle had a good half an hour. But the issue being is that, especially second half, it was just a one-sided game. So Newcastle need to make sure that if you are winning the game, especially at a place like the City ground, we can just try and console that lead and just make sure we've got there's a bit of leeway in the game, because I thought Forest had far too much in that second half against us, and they probably should have scored a second goal.
Just another thing, you're down in, is it 11th, I think, at the second? It's not Newcastle to me. I feel like since the money came in, all of that sort of thing, Newcastle for me have been a top half team at absolute least. I think you've been really good. I remember that one season where your defence was just absolutely impenetrable. If you'd have said that one of the teams going into this season would be in third and one of them would be around 10th or 11th, I'd have said, how on earth did Forest make it up to 11th? I feel it's really, really a false position for me, I think. I don't know if you see it differently in the way that you've played, but I really rate Newcastle, and I want to know, where do you think that you'll finish this season, in your sort of honest opinion? Do you reckon you can get back up there fighting for Europe like I think you probably should be?
Well, when you look at Newcastle's games so far this season, you made a valid point there. I think we were to say that one team was third and one team was down in 10th or so out of Newcastle and Forest. I don't think anyone ever predicted it to be the way it is season.
Absolutely not for a chance.
But now, honestly, from the 10 games I've seen this season, I think Newcastle deserves to be where they are in the league. We haven't played that well. Again, as I say before, with the exception of last week, let's take last week out for a minute. Let's take the Arsenal game out of it. Newcastle just haven't played well in games. We've had a decent draw against City at home, but other than that, the away matches have been pouring. Some of our home games have got points here and there, but even our wins haven't been convincing wins. So when you look at our season so far, I think Newcastle do deserve to be where they are, and it just hasn't happened so far. I think last week's been so much better. We've finally got some confidence going into our team, but it's just been a case where I think the transfer window was awful coming into the season. I think our play style, as I said before, I think is quite predictable, and it's just been an instance where what has clicked last season, what has clicked 2 seasons ago for Newcastle, isn't clicking anymore. I think things will change around now, without trying to be cocky or anything, but the reality is you do have to look at Newcastle's team on paper. Our team is class. It is very good. We've actually got the, when you place it in the world, Newcastle's actually got the 9th most expensive squad in world football, which is 7th in the Premier League. just to add. So it's not like we've got a pro team. Like, we do have an incredibly expensive team. I mean, point-wise, we're not that far off. I think it's still probably only about 3 or 4 points between a good few teams, but and Newcastle need to start to change your thing around. And a game like Forest, especially you guys, Brighton, Brentford, I think Fulham is above us as well, but these sort of matches are the ones when Newcastle need to get results in. If you don't get results in these sort of games, then we are going to be just struggling behind. So it's important that, even though I would love Forest to be in Europe, I would love to see our teams do well. The reality is, Newcastle, we've got to be brutal. We've got to go into these sort of games. We've got to be coming out of at least a point. If we lose to Forest, then Newcastle will, after a good week we had, we'll just be back to ground zero again. So it's a crucial game for us. And Forest as well, especially if Forest were able to get 3 points over Newcastle, it really does solidify the fact that Forest can be a legitimate European contender this season. So again, for you guys now, it's been exceptional for you. I think Forest play with a lack of fear as well, due to the fact that I would have thought, especially with all the Forest fans at the start of the season, I mean, some of you might have been optimistic and put you at mid-tail, but I don't think anyone would ever predicted to be in a European contention. I think most of you would have been just happy we're just comfortably staying up, which you've already done. So it's just about making sure, if you can't get a win against Newcastle, there will be a real opportunity potentially doing well this season. So it's important for us in a horrible sense. We've got to go out there and try and kill off Forest's confidence. The same with all the other teams around us as well, so Newcastle can push their way back in there. But let's see. I take my Newcastle fan out of this and just look at it as a neutral. I do hope Forest gets European football. I'd love to see some different teams back in there, and I think Forest is a team I've always got a lot of respect for, and always quite nice to Newcastle fans as well. So yeah, we do hope you do well away from this fixture. But of course, as a Newcastle fan, I've got to look at this fixture in our best interest. And again, it'll be a good game, but Newcastle have got to at least get a point from the game. If we walk away from a loss, then we aren't looking good this season.
Was that you saying that you'd take a point?
It depends on the context of the game, but if you were to tell me now, would I take a point at the City ground? I wouldn't be against it, is perhaps the answer I'm going to give you.
I was going to say, no, because it's so weird to hear other fans say, being complimentary about Forest after the absolute state that we were last season and the state that we were the season before. It's honestly, it's another world. I'd still bite your hand off for 10th place. I'm not, it's honestly, I'd absolutely bite your hand off for it. We were just hoping for some mid-table mediocrity this season. We've been absolutely blown away. The atmosphere is, well, it was against West Ham. It was sensational. It's the best it's been since, I don't know, the atmosphere against West Ham was the best it's been in a long time. And I say a long time. I mean, for me as a young fan, like a couple of years is a long time. But you sort of get the sense that from going from being quite so hopeless and being an utterly desperate team last season, seeing us doing so well is brilliant. I've said this to a couple of my friends, but I've not said this in terms of Europe. And I don't know if you'll agree with me with this one. I think that if we win our next 2 games, I think we will qualify for Europe. And I know that's a big call, but you have to keep in mind this is Newcastle at home, but then it's Arsenal away. I'm not saying that those things are going to happen, not at all. But I'm saying that if they were to happen, that's when I would start to believe, because I feel like our start to the season has been quite favourable. We've played Wolves, we've played Southampton, I'm trying to think who else we've played. We've played West Ham, who, as good as we were the other day, West Ham were utterly diabolical. They were so poor. Obviously, we've got those big points away against Liverpool. We've got a point at Chelsea, a point at Brighton. But I feel like, especially in our December, our fixtures really start to pile up, because we've got Arsenal away, we've got Ipswich at home, which hopefully should be a win in that. No, hopefully they can't provide us too many problems there. But after that, we've got both of the Manchester clubs away, then Villa, then first minute Merchants, Brentford, then Tottenham, that's like a nearly entirely top 6 standard December. Right, I say Man United, but they'll have Anna in in by that point, and he will have implemented a bit of his style. So I'm not looking forward to that one anymore. I feel like the way that we're going to be looking into November is we need to pick up some big points, put in some big performances, because December is going to be really, really tough. And this is why I'm not banking on us getting anywhere near Europe. Now I'm saying if we can finish November on that big sort of high, then I think that we'll be thinking, we'll be looking into December, even thinking, we can get some points. But I think if we then drop points on Sunday, especially if we lose on Sunday and then we lose against Arsenal as well, that'll be all of our momentum gone. And that'll be making us think against Ipswich, that'll have us thinking, crikey, we really need to pick up some points there, and that'll put the pressure on. And I feel like we need to really grind out these results. Otherwise, I think that I wouldn't be upset with mid-table at all. I'd be delighted with mid-table. But I think that with the way that we've played before this season, I feel like our ceiling has looked very high. I think it really rests on these next two fixtures to show if we can really do it when the pressure's on, to see how we're going to do oncoming for the rest of the season. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the reality is when you're a team that wants European football, you obviously got to finish in the top 7, maybe top 8, depending on how English teams do in Europe. But the reality is, if you're going to finish top 7, you've got to get points around those teams in the league. So I think especially your home games, you've got to go for your home games now. Arsenal away, realistically, even I look at Arsenal away, and I never think Newcastle would get a result down there. It's such a hard game, but your home games, when you're playing Newcastle, when you're playing Man City, when you're playing Arsenal, when you're playing Liverpool, whoever it may be, they're the ones where, especially where you need to get points in if you want to get top 7 in the league. Now, away matches, again, you've already had a massive result at Anfield this season, so Forest are capable of doing it. However, on a consistent basis against all the best teams in the UK, again, you've got to go to these grounds and just try and get some. It's hard, but I think what will make or break Forest this year, I think, especially when you have a game like Arsenal, where let's say you go down there, you lose the game, then the game after that is when you got to bounce back straight away. You can't afford to go on any sort of nasty runs this season, because even at this point in the season, Manchester United have already got a new manager in. Newcastle's below you, Chelsea's below you. You've got so many teams below you that are all kind of ready and almost pouncing on a team like Forest to perhaps drop off. So you've got to just stay on top of it the entire season. As I said before, now the players and the manager won't be playing with any fear at the minute, because due to the fact they've already exceeded expectations for you guys this season. So they've got no fear. So they'll go out there and they'll give it 100% and they'll work their backsides off. But the reality is, again, once you lose a game, it's about making sure the next game straight away you can just bounce back and get a result, because if Forest at any stage in this season go on a bit of a drought, or perhaps a bit of a bad stage where you lose a bit of confidence, then teams will pick up on it. And that's probably where the difference between a good team and a team that's been good and formed. So it's important for Forest that if they want to have a European spot this season, they've just got to do well all season long. It's as simple as that. And as you said there, Newcastle home and Arsenal, where if you can even get 3 points, 4 points out of those 2 games, and you're looking extremely well. But if you lose both of those games, and again, what you built so far this season is going to start to perhaps crumble off a bit. So it's important, 2 massive games for you guys. So you've got to make sure on your point of view that you're able to get at least a result in one of those games.
Okay, so I think I've got one last question, just out of interest for you. Forest Newcastle, combined 11, right now, go.
Okay.
This is including form, by the way. I'm not going to rip you apart for anything of it. I'm talking about right now.
Okay, based on form, that's interesting. Actually, I'll be honest. I'll be as honest as possible. But even based on
absolutely.
So okay. Can I hear yours first, actually? Because you kind of caught me a bit off guard.
It's really, really tough. I think
that is tough, yeah.
for the minute, because I feel like on form, we're the second form team of the Prem at the minute, but I feel like Newcastle just have better on paper, just pretty much everywhere. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it makes it a really, really sort of hairy pick. I mean, as we say, Sells has kept 2 clean sheets in the last 3 games, but in my books, Nick Pope is a better goalkeeper.
Yeah, well, I would pick Milinkovic as a centre half. He's been top draw for Forest. I've been a massive fan of him. So I would put him in over Shaw in terms of form, because I think Shaw's been good. He hasn't been bad, but again, he's not been the best. Fabian Shaw is perhaps the best way of putting it. So I would put him and Dan Burn. I think Dan Burn's been quality for Newcastle this season. I would put Alanga in terms of our attacking options, a player that we would have on the right hand side if he was to be playing for Newcastle. Based on form, I mean, he definitely is a better player. It's like he's 100% a better player than Chris Wood. But based on form, you would have to put Chris Wood in, which is absolutely mental, isn't it? So I still can't do it personally in my books. I think it's like just is that next level quality.
It's such a weird one, isn't it? Because I feel like there's not really any right answers here, because it feels like we've got a squad which obviously is playing very well, but I don't look at that squad and say, yeah, that should be 3rd in the Premier League.
Again, as a Newcastle fan, like we've sought Sells, Anderson, and Wood basically for players that aren't good enough to get in our 11. So the fact that all 3 of them have done so well for Forest is again like I can't put those 3 in Newcastle's best 11 because they were players that we sought.
I'm going to bite my tongue and I'm going to give a combined 11. I think now this is harsh on Sells, but I really, really rate Nick Pope. I think that we should have gone after him when Burnley went down. I think that would have been, he should have been absolutely first on our priority list. There were links to him for us, and instead we ended up getting. Oh no, hold on, I don't remember which season it was.
Like a Keylor Navas, or was he the season before?
No, we ended up getting Henderson, and Henderson got injured, and then we got Keylor Navas. But those were both on loans. That was our issue. And then we ended up last season with Matt Turner and Odysseus Vlachodimos, who, biggest respect to him, is utterly useless. Genuinely the worst Forest goalkeeper I've seen in my time. I can't recall a single save he made. Genuinely.
Really?
Honestly, he was glued to his line every time. I remember we went to Blackpool away. There's got to be some sort of religious play in there, that someone being scared of a cross. But you know what I mean. Vlachodimos, he was just so useless. I think, as I say, on form, for me, it's Aina. I'm just struggling to leave out any of our back line there, because they've all been outstanding.
I think Lewis Hall does have to go, and to be honest, he's been ridiculously good.
I'll edge Lewis Hall over Alex Moreno. I feel like Guimaraes and, I don't know, take your pick out of Tonali or Joelinton.
Tonali's been the best in form this season, and again, Joelinton's kind of either on midfield or he plays out on the left. He's quite a diverse player, so I would put Tonali in 100%. I'll put Anderson in based on form. So
then I'd probably say Gordon this season over Elanga for me, because Elanga has been quite hit and miss, as I said, about his decision making. I feel like he needs to really hit that bit of form, and then he'll sort of come alive. But I don't think we've seen everything that he can do this season. Then it would be Morgan Gibbs-White. He's just a non-negotiable for me. Callum Hudson-Odoi. Then on form, Chris Wood. But we all know that Isak's a better player than Chris Wood. But Chris Wood, with the form he's in, he's just absolutely electric at the minute.
Yeah, I would stick him in the form 11. Yeah.
I think that's just about all of the questions that I've got for you. I've eaten up 40 odd minutes of your time. Thank you very much for coming on. See you on Sunday. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you. Been a really, really nice chat. Good luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Good luck to you guys as well. Looking forward to seeing you all at the City Ground, and I'm sure whatever happens on the day, may the best team win as perhaps the best way of finishing things off. But
yeah, may the
appreciate
best team win, definitely.
Thank you so much, Matt.
And thank you too. And everyone watching, make sure to like and subscribe to me. Subscribe to hold on, it's that side. To Adam as well. Been a lovely chat. Hope you've all enjoyed it. Remember to ingest cheese. Good night.